Hey everyone, welcome back to Orange Grove 55. Today we got a special guest joining us today. I'll get to that in a little bit, but we got a plethora of stuff to talk about. Iger and Tomorrow at Walt Disney World, Magic Key Cells returning, Splash Mountain, Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, the Star Cruiser, all that coming to you with Orange Grove 55 live. Welcome back, everybody. And yes, we are live. And I'm George, the Disney family man, your host with the most. Yes, I had to date back to Will Smith from The Fresh Prince, 90s kid here. Gotta love it. But joining me today, I'm going to start down below. We have a very special guest. He hasn't been on the channel in a long while, Mr. Theme Park Casual. How are you today, sir?
I am doing fantastic. I am so thankful to be back on with you guys. It's been a while, and there is just a ton of stuff that we're going to be able to discuss, and it's some really, really fun stuff. So I can't wait.
Absolutely. And where could everyone find you on social media, sir?
You can find me on YouTube at my channel, Theme Park Casual, and you can also interact with me on Twitter and Instagram at Theme Park Casual.
Awesome. And before I get to this guy right next to me here, I just have to say, Mr. Orange Grove 55 couldn't make it tonight. He has some business to attend to, but don't you worry, folks. He is backstage handling all the odds and ends. He's the James Cameron of our avatar, if you will. But hopefully he won't put us on a plaque of wood in ice cold water. So hopefully that will happen.
Yeah, I don't want to go diving today. All right. So maybe we can stick with just the original avatar.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have next to me my brother, my partner in crime, the man who wears many hats, Mr. Vast Sky, Dr. Dre the DA. How you doing today, brother?
Doing very well. Thank you. I am so happy to be here. Finally be given a chance to talk about some of these amazing topics that we've been seeing out on Diz Twitter and some other places lately. So I am really, really happy to be here. I'll dispense with the pleasantries real fast, though. If anybody wants to follow me, you can go ahead and do so right down there at Vash Sky. Just go ahead, type it in. Should pop up for, as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say, for all the
robust
discussion right there. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be the channel you're watching right now, Orange Grove 55, where we have great shows right there, like Orange Nerd, where we talk about everything behind the camera. Jay from Story Geeks with his show that talks about everything in front of the camera. George with his simply incredible show, Citrus Corner, which is extremely popular, where we talk about everything Walt Disney World, and my own Freshly Squeezed, your source for juice and news and info, squeezed fresh right from the Grove. Well, I think...
before we do, right off the bat, Mr. Theme Park Wizard gifts us with $20 to the channel. Thank you very much, sir. That was what a way to kick off the live show.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Wizard. Do appreciate that. That is fantastic. That is awesome. Thank you so much. We actually we should give it up to Wizard here. Just to give a little bit of inside baseball for the audience. He has assembled quite the team that will be going to Disneyland next weekend. So thank you for not only the $20, which will come in handy for that for that little shindig, but thank you for assembling us all together. That's going to be one heck of a ride there. But
that'll definitely cover 2 stops at Carl's Jr. for me. So that's
Perfect, George. Perfect. I would be remiss if we didn't actually play our O'Reilly drop, since this is a live show. I mean, come on, we gotta break. We gotta kick this off thing. Kick this thing off. Well,
we'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Perfect.
Now it's official.
Now it's official. It's perfect. Okay, so George, you're the host.
All right.
What would you like to get into?
So tonight's topics, we're all over the place. We're actually going to be
yes.
visiting both coasts. So let's start it on your guys' neck of the woods. Let's start it off with the theme park that started it all at Disneyland. But let's kick it off with the Magic Key resales that are back up. And a lot of people were talking about, of how, it's so difficult to get the Magic Keys, and they kind of pop up here and there. And then after they get so many sales, they, as Mr. Vaskai puts it, they move those levers back and forth, if you will. And a lot of people have been saying online that it was very simple for them to get a Magic Key. They only had to wait less than a couple minutes in the virtual queue. Other people that I know that said that they were waiting a little bit longer, but not too terribly. So do you think that the popularity of the demand for these Magic Keys are kind of waning a bit? I'll start with you, Mr. Theme Park Casual. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to tell just because of the factors that are involved, because you do have the economy as an issue.
Right.
And I have one friend that last time the keys were on sale tried to get one and they didn't make it in time. And so when this one came up, I let them know, and they got in the queue. We're waiting for a little while. And then the next day when I asked them, hey, did you get the key? They said, no, we can't afford it. We got, 2 kids. It's just too expensive. So they're going to opt for, maybe doing the 3-day tickets. So I don't know.
That was actually my issue, because I had a Magic Key, and it's just at the times, for the amount of times that I'm out to visit Disneyland, as to opposed of how many times that I'm just buying it just to say, oh, I'm a Magic Key holder. How many times am I actually using this thing to benefit the amount of money that I'm putting out? And it's actually much. And actually Trey was like kind of going back and forth with me, because he was like helping me break down crunch the numbers. Like, is it really worth having an annual pass times the amount of times that I'm there, if it's just best just to get a multi-day park hopper ticket? But Mr. Vaskai, won't you break this down for us?
Yeah, I'm going to give credit to Haston here on Twitter. He kind of detailed a couple of, as this most recent run of Magic Key sales actually went on, he actually detailed some of the trends that we were seeing, let's say. So it kind of started out as kind of this kind of big demand surge, and then it quickly kind of dissipated into something that, you could just wait 1 minute, and I don't think any of the Magic Keys actually ended up selling out. And I believe there's still various Magic Keys are still available as of 7 hours ago. Mouse Planet, Is It Possible, 3 Disneyland Magic Keys, the Imagine, Believe, and Inspire are all still available for purchase. An online queue is under 1 minute. And I think you're right, Casual. I think some of this is economic driven. I mean, I remember back August 25th, 2021, when the original Magic Key program was launched. I remember saying at the time, I was like, ooh, the valuation has definitely changed here. With that reservation system in place, and with the kind of pseudo blockouts as they come up with the various demand changes and so forth, the amount of access that you can actually get to these parks is very disparate, right? And it really is contingent on how much effort and time that you want to actually spend getting a reservation when you want to go and so forth. So, will you actually be getting the same value out of these keys that you got with the previous AP program? I mean, I've not seen that. And I know Dusty, interestingly enough, I should have probably brought it up, actually, but that's okay. During his live stream on, I believe it was last Friday, he was saying that MyShed had been conducting polls throughout this entire process, and people, kind of rating their experience with the Magic Key program. Is it magical, not magical, whatever? He was suggesting that with their polling that they had been conducting, people were very unhappy with the Magic Key program. They were very unhappy with their actual purchase and so forth. So I think the Magic Key, it's just not as desirable maybe as the previous AP program was, simply because of those value changes. But that's not the only thing we're seeing. We're also seeing the company add more Tier 0 days as well, as they listed here, I believe on January 10th here. Even more opportunities to visit with a 104 park ticket. That's your Tier 0. Ready, set, book. We're happy to share that the Disney Resort reservation calendar will offer nearly 2 months worth of $104 park tickets throughout 2023, which means additional opportunities to enjoy our lowest one-day, one-park ticket price while creating moments destined to become memories. So think about it. We have a new attraction coming online. We have a parade coming online as well, with Magic Happens in the coming months, whenever that actually debuts. We have a new fireworks show, new lagoon show, new anniversaries celebration, and yet they're having to add more Tier 0 days. They're saying that they're going to open up various points throughout the year. They'll open up AP ticket sales. This all tells me that there is kind of a waning of demand, as has been predicted by the U.S. Travel Association, even Universal to some extent. I believe on their last earnings call, they said that they kind of expected a waning of demand in 2023, or at least alluded to it. We know they alluded to it big time with their firing or early retirement packages that they were offering for senior leadership. So there's a lot of stuff here that's going on. I think Disney is kind of caught up with it, just like everybody else.
Well, and I think it's interesting. Theme Park Wizard mentioned in the chat that he's not renewing his key for this year because he has paid for more tickets, because a lot of the times it's blocked out for his time. So he's paying for something that he ends up having to buy tickets anyway, because you're paying for something just for it to be blocked out.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the scary thing there. You're paying into like a black box, essentially, right? You don't know really how much. Not only will you use it, which has always been part of the equation, right? It's like, well, does this thing really work for me? How many times am I actually going to make it down there, and so forth? But now it's how many times can you even use it, depending on how blacked out it actually is. And while before they may have offered a blackout calendar and you kind of knew what you were buying into, now you really don't. So again, the proposition of buying a $1,500 ticket for some, let's be honest here, California cost of living ain't going down. I believe the price of eggs is double than it was in July right now. Mm-hmm. And that's just one of those factors where you're looking at basic needs and so forth. Do I really want to put out all this cost, or do I want to maybe go less and just buy single day tickets? I think people are actually doing that. And it's interesting. Maybe Disney won't have that robust annual pass holder population in their back pocket as they were expecting. I believe it was Haston who had a very interesting point that I actually ended up retweeting here. Let me see if I can find that real fast. Let's see. Really quickly.
We should just get our hands on an 18-pack of eggs and we could live Beverly Hills style.
Exactly, right? Exactly. Yeah, Magic Key sales reopening feels less like, quote, we want to offer it to more people, and more like the attrition rate after the holidays was higher than expected, especially given no new enchant keys. Feels like most people I know outside of a short radius around the resort just didn't renew. And I think that's correct, honestly.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because we're so in the community. It's hard to hear what the normies feel like,
Sure. Yeah.
Because we see a lot of complaints, a lot of the ins and outs of the Magic Key. Is that filtering out to the average person who's hearing those kind of horror stories and saying, oh, well, I don't think I want to deal with that. I don't want to go get it, spend that kind of money and get that. Because I know the normies that I deal with, if they have a question about Disneyland, they come to me.
Oh, really?
And I'll give them, the bare bones. I tell them, okay, here's the benefits, here's the things you have to deal with, and the things that you're going to be, up against if you were to do something like that.
Oh, I do the same thing, casual. The only difference is I charge people.
No, I mean, I've talked about this before. How the even though the theme park guys are sometimes crazy, they're your biggest advocates of a very profitable segment of your brand. So when they're unhappy, it does kind of radiate out just a little bit. OrangeGo55 says in the private chat, Disney wants people buying those day tickets. It's more of a treat, and folks more likely to spend the whole day then as opposed to keys. And that's exactly correct. It's just, when you're adding a whole bunch of tier 0 days, that goes beyond just a change in philosophy and kind of shifting to this kind of day ticket proposition. That tells me that there's waning of demand throughout that's actually occurring. And maybe it's more prominent with the Magic Key program because of their various strategies, no question. But it's just, you kind of like to have those APs in your back pocket, and so that way you can kind of fill in some of these time periods. But I mean, look, it's getting tough out there, and it's not getting any easier. I don't want to put out scary news or whatever, but we know there may be some developments in the housing market there, especially in the used and automotive sector and so forth. This stuff's kind of coming up to a head here. Do you necessarily want to buy into this kind of black box system, knowing, casual, to your point, that the theme park experience has definitely changed? I mean, I remember hearing Dusty's comments during his live stream. He was just like, look, listen, this Genie Plus stuff is getting out of hand. Even though the parks are relatively comfortable, the fact that they're over, selling these kind of things is really kind of degrading the experience. And actually, that is a good transition to maybe
that you just hit right into
Josh Giamarro's comments.
That was it. So, Mr. Vashkai, why don't you take us through the parks chairman Josh Giamaro about his interview and how his feelings on the reservation system.
Right. And OG, you can go ahead and share my screen here. We can go through it together. This comes to us via Mice Chat here. Walt Disney World update, Giamaro discussion, and favorites return. Chloe Ferreira over there at Mice Chat has this to say, sitting down with Josh Giamaro. In response to last week's slew of news, Tron opening date, happily ever after returning, major operational changes for Walt Disney World and Disneyland, among others, we had a special opportunity to take part in a roundtable discussion with Josh Giamaro, chairman of Disney Parks Products and Experiences. Giamaro wants to be more actively engaged with not only cast members, but with individuals who visit the parks frequently. He seems genuinely willing to listen to get their feedback. This roundtable conversation was a chance for us to hear from the man himself on a variety of subjects. So apparently they were not able to record or anything like that, so we have summaries to go with. And he talks about Genie Plus and so forth, which we will get to in a moment, but I think we were looking for the reservation system itself. As for park reservations for the long term, they're likely not to go anywhere. The parks are too in demand. Josh says the main objective is to make sure the parks are operating exceptionally well every single day and for the future. While the parks absolutely required caps on attendance immediately after reopening, eventually it moved to where there were too many guests at the parks. Josh noted that at Disney's Hollywood Studios, which that is the park that keeps coming up as part of this pushback to get rid of the reservation system entirely, for instance, there were just too many people for it to be enjoyed by everyone. He said that there is no more, quote, come one, come all mentality. The park reservation step is there so that guests in the park are having a better experience. Further, they're trying to find the right balance between park hopping and convenience. It goes on to say here, I believe this was taken from another interview here where they got a little bit more specific with his use of language here. Let's see if I can make this up. Giamaro noted that while park passes were initially introduced due to caps on attendance, after those caps were lifted, Disney knew that there would still be, quote, some days where there were just too many people. As Giamaro put it, he would never run something like Disney's Boardwalk Inn as a, quote, open invite, first come, first served. There'd be so many guests, people would end up sleeping on the floors, making for a less than great experience. Giamaro explained that the park passes, like hotel reservations, are there to make sure guests have a better experience.
Okay, I just have a couple things to kind of add on to this, and I'll pass it on to Casual, because you know me, I got to go balls to the wall here.
We got to do it now. There you go.
Okay.
Go ahead, George.
So first off, Chapek is no longer in the equation here. And a lot of people were giving him flack. I'll say that flack. That about the reservation system, yada, 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 what have you. Well, guess what? Chapek's no longer here. The reservations are still here. I have to make it clear these reservation systems were thought of even before 2020, even before Chapek got into the hot seat as CEO. This was something Disney was concurring up to this point, and when the pandy hit and the shutdown hit, it pushed everything that they were looking forward into the future right up to now.
Correct.
So I have to make that notion. Second of all, I really truly believe that after DeMauro had this interview, that the reservations aren't going anywhere. We all kind of had this mentality that when Iger came back as CEO, oh, okay, with a click of a finger, reservations are going to be gone. Well, if everyone remembers Iger's speech to the cast members on the Disney lot in Burbank, that he said, you know, I don't know too much about it yet when confronted about the reservation system and Genie Plus. And he said, I will talk to Josh about this. Well, he's now leaning more towards Josh to kind of spearhead, you know, do we keep the reservation system? Do we keep Genie Plus? Well, based off now with this interview, it really seems like along with Genie Plus, which automatically I would say Genie Plus wasn't going anywhere. It's making Disney money. They're not going to get rid of that. That's just the way it is. But the reservation system, it's here to stay right now, unfortunately. But what I don't understand is DeMauro's wording of saying there's just too many people, which yes, back in the time there was too many, but isn't there too many people now where it's like overly crowded, where I can't say that this is something that you can compare to a hotel reservation. So that's my piece.
Casual.
Well, here's where it gets weird for me.
Sure.
We visited the resort at Disneyland a few times before we had Magic Keys. But we were doing, 18-hour days. We were up at, 5:30 at the park, waiting in line by 7, closing the park, being ushered out basically at near 1:00. We were able to do just about everything we wanted to do.
Okay.
And that was and we didn't buy Genie Plus.
Right. So
to me, the reservations, if they're saying that that's what they're doing is capping, a guest count for the day, it seems to be doing its job. From my point of view, I haven't gone on a day where I've experienced it to the point to where I'm saying, you know what, forget this, we're done. I can't take all these people. And I've been to Knott's Berry Farm recently, right after Christmas, and it was to the point where I was just like, I feel really bad for anybody who paid to get in here today. Whoa. Because it was just so bad.
Wow.
I mean, you were literally, it was the kind of thing where it was a spur of the moment, and I, headed out at about 11:30. And when I got off the freeway at Beach Boulevard, it was gridlock on the streets surrounding the park.
Yeah. I have a similar thought process with Genie Plus, actually. It's like, okay, are these things really going away? And Genie Plus, we've said before, George, and we're kind of pretty bullish that it's not going away, but it might be altered, right? Yeah, exactly. There might be some changes applied.
That one, I will say, they need to figure that out, because that is frustrating to watch. And seeing the just when you go and you've got your standby line that's long, and then you look at the Genie Plus line, the Lightning line, and you're just like, that's not much shorter. It's something's broken.
Totally frustrating. I'll show you guys just briefly here if I can actually find it. Oh, here we go. Yeah, I got it. What Casual is talking about right here. You can see right here. This is the Lightning Lane for Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, which is about a 25-minute wait and goes all the way back towards the exit there. Let's see if I can make this a little bigger for you. There you go. I mean, it's this keeps happening. This keeps happening post JPEG. This keeps happening, where the demand for the park itself isn't even all that high. Look, this kind of monetization of the fast pass process, I don't think is going away. But Dusty actually made a good point here. It's like, look, can we look to guidance from maybe their competitors who have been in this kind of upsell fast pass system for quite a bit amount of time? They know what works, they know what doesn't, and so forth. Use their institutional memory, and that way we don't have to relearn this process over again. Also, too, Disney implements this system very differently in a place like Disneyland Paris, where they don't have an kind of all-you-can-eat purchase price or a grouped purchase price for these Lightning Lane or fast pass entry lanes like they do with Genie Plus here in the States. In the States, you buy in a Genie Plus for the day, and now you have every single Lightning Lane available to you, and you just have to reserve from there. It's like, well, can we break it up to where you have to purchase for every single attraction, right? And maybe for example, like Rise or Mickey Minnie's Runaway Railway or something, maybe that's like $35. Maybe Space Mountain, which is a very popular attraction, but obviously is 50 years old or something. Maybe that's like $15, and in that way, it just puts a lot less stress on those systems. Or you increase the price of Genie Plus itself, where it's like maybe $300 or something like that, and now only a small percentage of people are actually on the system. But those people who opt for that system are getting a tremendous service, right? And it doesn't make the standby line slow down to a crawl. I kind of think of this similarly to the reservation system. It's like, look, there are legit benefits to the reservation system, especially for those high peak times, like you were saying, Casual, like at the end of December, that can get really, really crazy. Well, then we can keep a reservation system in place for those times. We can keep it for specific groups, let's say. So maybe the Magic Key holders have to opt, they have to reserve maybe more than maybe a regular ticket holder does. And that way we don't have to keep, we don't have to necessarily keep back ticket holders. We can kind of keep back APs and so forth at various times. Like we can pull all the levers that we want to. Christine Way, Sons McCarthy, Josh Giamaro. We can really make this work for everybody, but this kind of like, I don't know, one size fits all solution. I mean, we already know they're adjusting that at Walt Disney World's end, where AP holders over there, they don't have to make a reservation past 2 p.m. Unless it's for Magic Kingdom on the weekends. It's like, okay, well, there you go. That's how you can account for some of those problems. When he says Disney's Hollywood Studios is the thing that's like, oh, well, we have to have a reservation system in place for that. It's like, okay, well, then apply it to that park then.
Right. And I also think, too, that the reason why Hollywood Studios has so much of a problem is because, and I think we talked about this on the show so many times, there's not enough to do. So for those main headliner attractions, everyone's going there because that's basically what they're there for.
Correct. Yeah.
And as far as with Walt Disney World goes, I personally think, and this could be far-fetched because I do a lot of trips down there, I think that if you have a vacation package that includes tickets and a hotel stay, that you're actually staying on Disney property inside the Disney bubble, that should automatically eliminate you from having any park reservations. Because if you're actually paying Disney to stay on the property, that's the people that really should be eliminated from the park reservations.
Right.
Yeah. It's an interesting, Yep. Interesting assessment. Also, too, if we're throwing out ideas here and what can make this a lot better for everybody, as part of this whole theme park game here, can we get some AP renewals at least for people who are DVC? I mean, come on, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Isn't that insane?
Yeah, if I was DVC, I would be just livid with that. I cannot believe that they're doing that to people that have literally invested in the vacation kingdom. I mean, it's like, come on.
Right. And it actually has kept back some sales of DVCs.
Well, I can imagine.
There have been multiple stories that I've heard where, the salesperson on the other end of the line regales them with all that they can do with DVC. And one of the questions asked, can I get an AP? And there's nothing they can say as far as the sales team. I've heard different stories, but they're not advised to say anything past that point. But that's a non-starter for a lot of folks.
Yeah, that should be a completely different department for APs for DVC. Like they should have like a separate number or a separate person to talk to, because if you're investing that much money in a Disney timeshare and you essentially have already bought into it and you're going to go down there and stare at the four walls, and every time that you're going to utilize that and you have to buy everyday tickets every time you want to use that timeshare, that
should just come with the DVC. You can purchase an annual pass. That's
correct.
Just no question.
Right, no question. And I mean, you have enough parks in order to have enough, not an overwhelming amount of an AP population there. Just provide that for them. They're paying $50,000, $40,000 for these things.
That's like walking into an Italian market and you can't buy olive oil. It's like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not. That's not good. Actually, Josh actually talks about some of the other features as connected to the Disney theme park experience, including Disney Genie. So we'll go ahead and go through that. The hard-hitting question that was somewhat answered during the discussion, while there were some changes made last week, what else is going on with park reservations and Disney Genie Plus? Again, none of the changes that were announced January 10th, I believe, included changes to Genie Plus, and that is a big part of this whole equation here, both of which are unpopular with a lot of guests. Josh says that he has used Disney Genie and was involved in the early development, and he sees value in it. And this is kind of where he'll talk about like Disney Genie and not Genie Plus, and so it's a little bit of deflection, I think. Quote, is it perfect? No. Will it generate an itinerary that will ultimately help guests get what they want out of their visit? Yes. He continued with, exactly. For guests that know every nook and cranny of the parks, you know where you want to go. You may not need Genie at all. But if I'm a guest coming from Chicago who's never been there before, we're getting farther out. All right. Not Denver this time. We want to make sure they know how to navigate this place. We go on here. Disney's goal is to provide a platform for Disney Genie that could create an easily digestible experience for a guest. And what he says they know is that Genie is working. Guests are getting what they want. The technology is continuously optimizing itself with each iteration that occurs. Ultimately, it's the guest's choice. Quote, if you don't want to use your phone throughout your visit, you don't have to, end quote.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit before I continue on here with Much Chat's commentary. Okay, a couple things. One is I don't know anybody. I literally do not know anybody or any touring plans type service that recommends using Disney Genie. Like, I don't know one. And people tried using Disney Genie and they were kind of running all over the place and telling, and utilizing it and doing what it told them to do. But look, it's just a way to move some people to some, maybe less than stellar attractions. Let's be honest here. I don't think it's really a way to kind of get your maximum value off of your ticket price, which I think a lot of people have that kind of thought when they hear a program like Disney Genie. It's just not that. So I don't know where Josh is coming from with this. They're getting informational data from guests. That much I know is happening. But as far as it actually being useful, I'm not buying this.
No, I'm
not at all. Not at all.
He's he's a broken record. He's literally a broken record. Yeah. He's repeating himself no matter what interview or statement he's making. He's really trying to plead his case, but it's not going anywhere because all he's doing is just changing the cities. That's all he's doing. But go ahead,
exactly
Casual.
Like you said, he's just deflecting because he's talking about Disney Genie. And if anybody's watched any of the live streamers, say, okay, I'm going to do exactly what Genie tells me to do today. And it's, I want to go on Big Thunder, I want to go on Smuggler's Run, and I want to go on Star Tours. So what does Genie tell him? Now would be a great time to go see Mr. Lincoln. It's like,
exactly.
It is like the stupidest thing. It is worthless beyond belief. And how he's trying to, put it in a good light when it's like, no, we don't care about the Genie part because nobody uses that. We're talking about the Genie Plus, where you're paying for something and it's breaking your park.
Correct. When you have a park that's, even on Dusty's live stream, he's walking around various corridors and so forth and various pathways, and they look pretty open. Then you go to Space Mountain's 110 minutes, and it's like, why is this way? This shouldn't be anywhere near that high. And the fact that Josh says, quote, if you don't want to use your phone throughout your visit, you don't have to? Are you serious right now? If you want to get a virtual queue for the attraction that's going to be opening here, which we'll get into in a moment, you have to use your phone and use it quite well, might I add. You want to get some food? Well, 3 out of the 4 lanes for food options are now mobile order. So you got to use it for mobile order. You have to use it for a dining reservation. You have to use it for all other kinds of planning elements. And if you do opt for Genie Plus, well, guess what? You got to use it for that too. This site, I don't know where this stuff's coming from. This is just totally tone deaf. And for a guy who spends a lot of time in the parks,
spoken like a true salesman.
Exactly. Which now we know, George, as I was, we were, let's just say, speaking to our source there. Well, that's where Josh G. Morrow actually came from within the Disney company. He came from sales. So it kind of all makes sense. Is he really listening? Or is he just being kind of a salesman, an advocate for what they want to do and trying to sell every single person that he interacts with on these ideas? Which, by the way, if you go back to that interview that he did with Theme Park Insider, Robert Niles, that's kind of what he says in so many words. It's like, oh, when I explain this to them, then they get it. It's like, so did you listen to them? Or, are you so committed to this thing that is a non-starter with a lot of folks? It's just not great. It's unfortunate to see. My chat goes on here for a little bit. That part didn't get answered. The part that didn't get answered was the Lightning Lane portion, obviously, which we feel is the reason Disney Genie gets a bad rap. When half the guests in a park or more are using the Skip the Line service, it's oversubscribed, and that's exactly the case.
Absolutely, yeah. That's. I just think honestly, it's like we're taking like little baby steps, but it's like we're not moving fast enough, and it's like there's just certain people within the company that just have this one track mind that they're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but they just keep on adding to the tunnel that we just can't get to the very end. And
That's funny.
It's
most of the time it's like they just can't admit that. Okay, yeah, that was bad.
Yeah.
We messed up. We're gonna retool it. Give us a month. Right. It's like you got to do something. And with Genie Plus, how they allowed it to be sold to anybody and everybody, is just disgusting. It really is, because that you had to know what was going to happen, and you did it anyways.
And now there's almost like a compulsion to actually purchase it, right? Because it's like, oh, if everybody else is doing it, I better do too, because I'm just not going to get on these rides without it. And it's kind of turned into that, really. And it didn't need to be that way. But, this is why when like Nelson Peltz gives his kind of Restore the Magic campaign and says, hey, you're over-earning in this park sector, that's where a lot of those kind of frustrations, it kind of reverberates to those people who feel like, they're sucking the parks dry. Really,
well, I don't even think they're necessarily over earning on Genie Plus. It's just implemented incorrectly. Because if they pump the price 10 times,
yes,
you're still going to have more than 10% of those people purchasing, and they'll still capture just as much revenue,
Right.
but it's going to be a system that benefits those who purchased, as well as not being a, roadblock to the other people who weren't able to purchase.
Correct.
Well, and that's even like looking at the attractions that break down. I mean, like Radiator Springs Racers is a perfect example that it's very popular. People pay into it with the lightning lane. It's already backed up, but then when the ride breaks down, then you're having the regular standbys come back with the lightning lane, and it just becomes a big cluster.
Yeah, why can't we cancel people's lightning lanes, give them something for the meantime, and then when Radiator Springs Racers does come back up, kind of force them into various return windows so that you don't have these backups. Like, there are ways to overcome these issues. They just choose not to. And
Right.
it's getting kind of frustrating, because it's like when you're even suggesting like, hey, these are an issue. What do you think about these? It's like, oh no, Disney Genie's great. We have people going all over the park. It's like, whatever there. George, SoCal Imagine Channel.
Yes, absolutely. SoCal Imagine Channel gifts us with $4.99, and it says maybe Disney should rent phones for those who aren't from this generation. Gonna stream opening day of Disney 100 and Super Nintendo World. But first off, thank you so much for the gift. We really do appreciate it. And
Absolutely.
and then of course, we're gonna definitely stream because we're all gonna be there for the Disney 100. So definitely keep an eye out.
It's wild. We got quite the group there. If you're there that weekend, hey, if you see us, make sure you stop and say hi. I think it'll be pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, as far as renting out phones go, they do it already at the Star Cruiser, which is also another topic of discussion. But before we get to that, George, where do you want to go from here?
So we're going to go from here because Big Daddy Josh likes to say you don't need to use your phone in the parks. Well, Josh, I got some news for you that if you're going to be in the parks along with us for Disney 100 and you'd like to get on Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, please inform us of how we can get on there using the virtual queue without our phone. So let's start with Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway with the new virtual queue.
Yes.
And possibly how this could then maybe even lead to what they may do with Tron at Walt Disney World.
Right.
But I think it's kind of interesting that, especially when you already have a land that is not going to be fully in operation until March 8th, and you're just going to have this small little area, but you're still... So when they do the virtual queue, this is for the virtual queue of the ride or a virtual queue to actually get in the land?
That is one way they could prevent huge clogging of traffic past the kind of sign, which we will also get into, is to kind of, hey, you need a reservation to get past this point. That's a pretty smart way of doing that. I would think that they would do something like that, especially as it relates to Tron. You have that really kind of narrow area between Autopia and the Space Mountain exit shop right there that you have to get past in order to get to Tron. That's going to be particularly tough right there. So I can see them implementing a system over here on the West Coast first to kind of see if a system like that works. I would think that it does. But we will see here. I mean, you'll be able to join a virtual queue here. The Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway virtual queue enrollment times will be twice daily, 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then an hour before those drops, they're giving you the opportunity to actually create your groups. So, that is very, very interesting. Very late for this news as well. This came out January 18th. The ride comes online on the 17th, so less than 10 days they announced this whole thing here, which, now we, as a group, we got to actually figure out how to actually do that. That's going to be interesting. But I would also assume for the Tron opening that they not only implement a virtual queue, very similar to the one they've implemented here, but also probably with that third drop for hotel guests, sort of like they did with Cosmic Rewind, George, if you remember that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I would think this is going to be how, ride openings go from here on in. And honestly, I was hoping that a virtual queue would drop for this because, I was just kind of looking at it going, ooh, do I really want to spend 8 hours online? I don't necessarily want to do that. So I think this... Oh, go ahead.
No. I was just going to say, and for me, out of everything that Disney implements, now I could be in the minority here, but I don't have a problem with a virtual queue. I've never had a problem with a virtual queue. Using it for Rise, I've never had a problem using it for Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. So I actually agree with you, Vash. I think, with something opening like this to the caliber at Disneyland, I think it's definitely needed.
Yeah.
So, but what's your take on it, Casual? What do you think?
I don't mind the virtual queue. I just it left a bad taste in my mouth when I had to do it with Rise.
Yeah.
And we were on the way to Disneyland and trying to get the 7 o'clock. I'm having my wife do it because I'm driving. She's kind of asking, what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? This and that. And it hit 7 o'clock and she's asking me questions. And I told her, just never mind. And she's like, well, I'm trying to do it. And I said, but it's 7 o'clock and 4 seconds. We're already out.
Exactly.
It's like, so you don't have to worry about it. So it just put kind of already had us in a, little bit of a bad mood on the way to the park. And then, later in the day, she was able to get the boarding group for us. And then we did Savvy's workshop, and on our way over to Rise for our boarding group, closed, broken down. And at that point, it's 8 p.m. And it's 8 p.m. at that point, and it's like, so we ask them, what do you guys think? And they said, we have no timetable for when it could open.
Right.
And this was when we were purchasing, we were buying a ticket to get in. And so we had to make the decision, do we sit here, hope for it to come up and get on the ride, or do we go spend the last, 2 or 3 hours that we have left running around Disneyland and having fun?
And that I could definitely understand. I guess just for me, I've never had to run into that issue. Right. I hope I never did, because probably if I did, I'd probably be cursing in Italian at my phone, at that point. So, but yeah, I could definitely concur that I've heard a lot of horror stories about people trying to get on Rise where it was either closed down. It was like a couple seconds after their phone glitched and it completely threw them up. By the time they got back in, there was nothing available. So, right. I mean, I remember at Hollywood Studios that people were all huddled together, like at the main entrance, and they were like waiting for the time drop to go, because it was like several different times. You could do it twice at Hollywood Studios for Rise. It was one at opening, and I think it was like 1 or 2 p.m. Is when they did the next batch, and it was like everybody was on their phone during that time.
Yeah. And I think that's why they kind of implemented that kind of like the dual drop system, right? So it's like not all inventory is completely extinguished by the time at the 7 a.m. or the opening a.m. drop is. Before, how they implemented this thing, you didn't get a second drop, but you didn't even have a ability to purchase it, which you will have here with individual Lightning Lane, which we'll get into in a moment. But before, you had to actually be in the park too. That was another super big headache, and oh my gosh, I can't tell you the stories of trying to get to Rise when we were there with day tickets, trying to get in. Casual, very similar situation, but we had hotel stays on the line as well. Oh man, trying to get the whole family together. We didn't even have little kids, but trying to get the family together, that was kind of tough. Get there, crack of dawn, get in. Get out, reserve, all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was a lot.
Magical. Is that how you'd describe
it? Magical. Yeah, exactly right. For sure. No, but it was quite tough. We were able to do it, but I was like, ooh, this is rough here. Look, and I think they've improved it in doing the dual drops and doing the individual Lightning purchases. Like you can buy in if you like. That's what I'm there for, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like it doesn't make you feel good, but at least there's something for the people who can't actually get in. for me, for an attraction opening, it's the least bad option in my view,
Right.
because I don't want an 8-hour line either. I got to be honest with you. If, I'm paying per day myself, so it's like, oh, a $244, tier 6 park hopper. I don't necessarily want to spend a lot of those available hours in line, right? So it's like that's kind of that's there's a value proposition there as well, is what I'm saying. So it's like I'll go with it. We'll do it. I do think that the amount of time at which they implemented a system like that for Rise, a little bit too long. Let's shorten it up here a little bit, because I can tell you one thing right now: cast members hate a reservation type system employed for these, or a virtual queue type system employed for these attractions, because they hear it from guests when they cannot get in. You only need this for a couple of months, guys, or maybe even a couple of weeks. You don't need it for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'd like to see. I mean, Rise closes early still.
Yeah, so I wanted
that kind of stuff. That's frustrating.
I wanted to get into that, Casual.
Yeah, I was going to say, and now we've got a ride show, the ride building that is basically underneath the fireworks.
Because it was under stipulation that we were talking about this way before, when they first announced that Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was coming to Disneyland. And we would always beg the question, is the land and the ride going to stay open during the fireworks? And apparently it is not. So, I mean, that's going to really put a damper with the amount of time frame of people, how to utilize the virtual queue.
So if you want to share my screen there, OG, Marty Snyder, though, says, thought we were told reservations were there so we could stop the problem with 8-hour flow lines. Yeah, I remember that promise, too. Great how that changed. But the ride will remain closed for the rest of the evening if the park is closing at 10 p.m. or earlier on account of the fireworks. And the ride will reopen if the park is closing at 11 p.m. or earlier. But it is scheduled to close with the fireworks, like you were saying, George. And yeah, just like you were saying, we were under the impression that they had overcome those issues because they integrated the fireworks launch point as part of this thing. And with the distances and so forth, we would have thought that this problem would be alleviated, and yet it's not. So now we potentially have an attraction like this closing. I mean, honestly, I would think that they would close it with about 2 hours sooner, because you have to block that line off, right? So you only want about 2 hours of queue in there. This attraction probably closes at like 7 now. And in some cases, it may actually remain closed. Now, I think it would be pretty rare to have the fireworks go off on a 10 p.m. closing day, but it's going to happen, and that's why they're including it in there. But now you have the two biggest attractions that Disneyland has added in decades now closing early and are not part of your operating day that you're paying so dearly for. Casual, I concur with you. I dislike this quite a bit, and it's unfortunate that they couldn't actually overcome these problems. When I remember reading the Mice Chat forums when this was coming in and saying like, ooh, that's going to be a problem with fireworks. And it's like, oh,
here we are.
Yeah, they'll figure it out. Well, apparently not. What does this mean for the actual projections? That apparently there are projections that are going to be part of this of the Toontown Hills. Can we see any integration with the fireworks? Well, seemingly not. If this attraction's closing, you would have to assume they're closing off the entire land, or maybe bordering it off. What does this actually mean to operations? These are some big questions right here, and did not foresee this, unfortunately.
No, and we'll get a big dose of it when we all go out there for the grand opening of this.
And remember, if an attraction cannot stay open the entire length of a day at Disneyland, that severely limits how much capacity that you can actually provide and how many individual lightning lanes or VQ spots you can provide. So this is really unfortunate. Hopefully they do something about this someday. But the fact that this is going to be like this on opening day, and we already have we already have Toontown delayed and so forth, not so good. Marty Snyder says, what was the reason previously for the late opening for Toontown? fireworks setup, will they still open at 10 a.m.? I believe, okay, so the late opening, you mean like when the
I
park
think that
actually
was
opened?
just operational, just to save some money.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There are portions of various parks that don't actually open at the point that they say they do, which actually gets us to another adjoining conversation with this, George, right? With Splash Mountain. But we'll get there. Casual's right. It was a way of saving money. And it was becoming rare for somebody to rope drop and have them go all the way to Toontown first. So why even bother? I can tell you right now, though, that's going to be a different story come January 27th.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Toontown, guests and fans will be able to see a brand new signage when they enter into Toontown. Now, I know we all have different opinions on this, where pretty much they still kept the same facade, welcome to Mickey's Toontown, with the number of the population that's entering in through the land. But there were some minor tweaks to the word Toontown, where they ended up incorporating the Disney characters into the lettering of the word Toontown, with Mickey being T, Clarabelle, Donald, Goofy, Pluto, Daisy, Chippendale, and Minnie as part of the signage. So I want to get you fellas take on this, and anyone in the chat, I definitely want to hear from you as well. Are you a fan? Are you not of a fan? I personally, I don't really have too much of a problem with it, only because I've seen Disney do much worse. And I think, of lesser of the two evils, I can kind of take on this of sort of like how they do with like the Disney merchandise shirts, of how they have the word Disney, but they incorporate the Disney characters within the lettering. And it gives that whimsical feel of Toontown. So as I said, I don't really have too much of a problem with it, but what do you guys think?
Well, for me, it's something that's a little bit off. I don't mind the look of it. My problem is that at this point, you have to consider this a little bit more toward wayfinding than just design.
Correct.
So wayfinding has to function first and foremost. You have to be able to read it. It has to be legible. It has to be a quick read.
Yeah.
That's not a quick read. So yeah. I think they went a little too far in, the details that are within those letters. It's not to say you can't have fun with it, because we saw another sign from another park that they went the opposite direction and it just went way too boring. And so I get it, but this is just a little bit too much, in my opinion.
So can I ask you, Casual, in your opinion, what would you, if you had to design it and Disney came to you and said, how would you handle the signage? What would you do that would tweak it?
That would tweak it? Well, actually, one of my Twitter follows, Sammyland, did an excellent job and basically showed to me exactly what they should have done.
Yeah.
It's still fun, still has some life. It's an evolution from the previous Mickey's Toontown sign, but it doesn't go so far to where your eyes, are kind of bouncing around for a second before you go, okay, it says Toontown.
Right. And there's also, if you wanted a more character-inspired version, you can even go further. And this was the second iteration. I do agree with you, Casual. I think the legibility is my big issue. I don't even actually, I'm not even actually that, indifferent towards the design of it, or even in the inclusion of some characters within it. I think that's probably appropriate. But there was a way to do it that, like you said, could maximize on function and legibility and wayfinding, and not just character integration or design that is cluttered and kind of hard to read.
Yeah, I mean, that somebody mentioned, it looks like it's a refrigerator magnet.
Yeah.
And it would be great if it was a refrigerator magnet, but like I said, it is wayfinding. It is, a marker to get people to understand where they're going. And if you make it a little difficult to read, I think you miss the mark. It's not to say that, oh, it's the most horrible thing and nobody's going to know where they're going. No, I get it. You can still make it out, but it's just a little bit off. And I don't like to see that trend of Disney doing things that are just a little bit off.
Yeah.
Especially when somebody on Twitter, within a few hours could give a couple of options that you go, oh, those are much better.
It's a little embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's a little embarrassing.
And gosh darn it, why did they change the little screw and baseball and question mark?
Okay.
Oh my God, that kills me.
Why did they do that? Okay, that was another thing I was okay, but why did they change? Because they had if people are unfamiliar, they had icons of stuff. So you had a baseball, a screw, a lemon, and so forth in here, along with the numbers, and that kind of made it a little bit more zany. Why did they get rid of that? That was the whole joke.
They put all the Zane up into Toontown, the word.
Well, yeah, but basically you're not wrong, because it was probably at that point it's like, okay, there's too much going on. And again, it's one of those things where it's just a little bit off, and it's not good when, the world-renowned Disney Imagineers and designers are doing things that are quickly found to say, you know what, I think that's a little bit off.
OG, I don't disagree with you. It's Toontown's supposed to be wacky and loud. By the way, I saw your comment up there about the bathrooms for Super Nintendo World as well. Don't think I didn't catch that. I got that. Very amusing. I will agree. The finish work, pretty good, right? But yeah, I don't disagree with you. Toontown is supposed to be wacky and loud, right? 100%. But this is signage that is supposed to be not just drawing you in, but also signifying where you're going, right? And so the fact that it is so illegible, like up close, it's okay, but you get farther back here, like for example this shot. Okay, that now it's getting kind of hard to read, isn't it? And this is probably with a zoom lens as well. When you actually see this thing in person, it's going to look like kind of a mess from a distance. And that's kind of where I'm at. I kind of agree with Casual. It's like you can still be funny, whimsical, and loud if you want to, right? And especially Mickey's Toontown, that is absolutely an appropriate thing to do. It's just legibility is also part of this equation. And unfortunately, they just kind of, they missed the mark a little bit. Now, if we want to contrast that with what Casual was saying before, okay, so this is the before, right? And legibility, I would agree, is an issue in this as well. But there's some style to it and all of that. Good stuff, but now it's like ultra function. Okay, now we've gone too far, like Casual was saying before, right? It's like, ooh, this
it's like packing it into a lunchbox.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Why couldn't you keep those letters? Maybe, I don't know, use a different color for the Orlando cursive font, and then still do the blue background. That's a very possible solution there.
Yeah.
Probably be less than actually ordering up new letters like they did in this case. So it's like, that's a weird kind of thing. It's like this is under-designed, and then this is wait, hold on. I lost it. This is over-designed. It's just it's a little strange. It's a little
to me, another thing about the Mickey's Toontown, I feel like they didn't trust the viewers. Yeah. They had to go so far to say, look, it's Mickey. Look, here's Goofy's hat.
Actually, from you saying that, now I can understand that point. Like, why just not have the color code of Mickey, sort of like how they do with the cruise ships, where they had to actually make the full-on ears within the T. Like, yeah, I can understand. Like, after seeing this, like where they're still implementing that zany wackiness to it. If I had to pick and choose, I still don't have too much of a problem with it, but if I had to pick and choose, I would definitely choose the person's man-made Toontown sign.
Yeah, because I saw
over
some
that.
people who were like having to decipher this, like, ooh, like is that Donald? And what's the first O there in Toontown? I have no idea who that is.
Well,
I
that's
was
just
like,
it. I wouldn't have known that. Actually, I got it from Tom Corliss from WDW News
Oh,
Today.
really?
I would have never known what the first O was. He was the one that said it was Clarabelle Cow. And to be honest, I probably wouldn't have got the W. I like that wouldn't have correlated with Chippendale. Like I can't even. Well, now I could see like the stripe on their back.
the
but,
stripe and the
Yeah.
But you kind of have to like decipher
yeah, like-
this a little
Yeah,
bit.
Clarabelle, I don't think I would have got it unless I was there and I could see the little flower.
Yeah, and that's
You
you,
know.
got to be real close for that stuff. So again, I mean, like it's not horrible. It's just it's maybe frankly a little bit over designed, and
Right.
like you said, casual restraint I think would have been nice in this instance. But George, where do you want to go, buddy?
Well, now we're going to get our plane tickets and we're going to go over to my neck of the woods. We're heading over to Walt Disney World, but we have some familiar faces joining along with us that you'd probably notice they popped up around Walt Disney World, including Epcot. And yes, folks, it is Bob Iger and Josh D'Amaro. They have been spotted throughout Walt Disney World, primarily, especially like in heavy presence in Epcot. And
Right.
so I thought this was kind of an interesting topic to discuss because Iger is usually not one that would be in the parks unless there's actually something up his sleeve or something going on. So that the fact that he's there with Josh, I find quite interesting and what it could actually be telling for Walt Disney World.
It was one of the criticisms that I levied at Bob Iger was, why aren't you ever in these parks unless it's an actual special event? And especially Walt Disney World. I mean, he would not touch Walt Disney World for those 15 years as part of his first round as CEO. It's very, very interesting how he's there with Jeff L., Josh D'Amaro, and so forth, and they're actually touring around with name tags, by the way. I mean, let's give credit on that one right there.
And very clean shoes.
Very clean. They are very clean shoes. Well, that's interesting. I wonder how long they actually spent there. Not long, but here, they actually have a change of shoes. Well, that's interesting.
Well, I was just going to say what they probably did was they probably had an extra pair. They probably put on the white shoes just for the photo, and then after the photo, it's like, okay, let's change them out.
Yeah, exactly, right. So yeah, he was there, and he was there at Epcot. And my impression, I mean, the couple big things here. One is the fact that he's even touring the parks right now is kind of insane, given that he didn't really do that, like I said before. But moreover, the fact that he spent so much time in Epcot, that screams to me that that is going to be probably a big consideration for capital expenditures going forward. I have heard from a plethora of Epcot managers and operations leads and so forth that they are just getting killed in Epcot. I mean, they are furious with the entrance of this park basically being a crater like it is, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, we need some support here. When can we actually get this addressed? When can we actually get these supplies that we need here to build this thing, to build this entrance out? Can we stop taking our capital expenditures and then like shifting them down quarter to quarter to make the balance sheet look good? We have finished this thing. And so this was encouraging to see. Theme Park Wizard donates $5. According to WDW Pro, he may have met with conservative politicians. Oh, well, that's interesting. There's a little bit of crossover here, is there? Actually, let me see if I can look that, because I know he posted an article on that park place. Let me see if I can bring it up here. Let's see. But he also posted about this, Bob Iger did, that he was visiting the parks on his social media as well. Had a great visit to Walt Disney World this week, and I'm always so inspired by our spectacular cast members who bring such talent and dedication to everything we do. Thank you. Well, show that appreciation by actually approving their contract, why don't you? But that's just me. Casual, let me I'll have you take over just a little bit. Let me see if I can find this article.
Yeah, one thing I think it was Joshua Harris on Twitter mentioned he's been in the parks more in the last 2 months than he had been the entire time he was CEO.
That I could believe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
He has been.
You kind of look at that and you go, well, maybe.
Yeah. Because this actually just, it doesn't just start at Walt Disney World. It actually started at Disneyland. So the fact that he's doing this with both coasts, and while actually Vash is looking up that information, I'm also kind of, this is a separate conversation, but it can kind of tie into that. Universal recently announced that they are investing money in that's going to lead into 2028 for when the Olympics come. So now that makes me wonder that even though this is Walt Disney World, but as Vash was mentioning, do you think that Disney is trying to capitalize on that as well? Because with a lot of people coming to the States for 2028, they're going to want something kind of spectacular. And if Universal already kind of made that announcement, will Disney beckon the call?
Yeah. According to Universal Core on Twitter, per Brian Roberts, Comcast is investing over $1 billion into Hollywood to prepare it for 2028. More will be discussed at Nintendo Media Day and earnings call. Yeah, I mean, that had been kind of and we have speculated on this show before that the Olympics is coming up, and everybody usually gets involved. For example, right, the Paradise Pier Hotel that everybody so loves and is just a crown jewel of Disneyland Resort. That was actually built by a Tokyo-based firm who put that up in preparation for the original LA Olympics in the 1980s. That was all kind of leading up to that. So there are, when the Olympics come to town, there's usually some big investment here in order to prepare for those, and those can have wide-reaching impact, like in that case right there. OG says they are remodeling Universal Studios Hollywood for $1 billion. DCA remodeled for $1 billion as well. Epic Universe has the same price tag with new park and hotel spread thin for EU. I actually don't know what the price tag is for Epic Universe. I thought it was more for stuff, but I'm actually not sure. Maybe if the price tag is at $1 billion, that would be a little short. But this is coming off of Universal Studios Hollywood spending a lot of money to reconfigure the entire resort as part of the opening for the Wizarding World West. And now we're spending even more money in order to shore it up for the opening of the Olympics. And we have heard some amazing things on that front. Fast and Furious Drift Coaster up in the upper lot that's taking over the effects stage, and animal actors. We're hearing that maybe New Wizarding World is actually coming to us, maybe replacing Simpsons, maybe replacing some other things along the tram tour and so forth. I mean,
there's possibly Donkey
Kong.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yep. So we're hearing major investment coming in here for sure. So it's interesting that you have Josh D'Amaro even saying himself that capital investment will not actually decrease on his watch. Interesting. If we go back to this article just a little bit, he actually talks about that. Let me see here. It was
D'Amaro who also said when someone asked him about Disneyland Forward, and he said that is still in progress. That's still on the table.
Yeah. He says, Josh continued that capital spending is the highest it's ever been before, and as long as he's in charge, that's not going to change. They're not pulling back. Disney is always working on new attractions and new ideas. He stated that there are big projects on the horizon, quote, some of the biggest things we've ever done, end quote. He also talks about the D23 Expo panel and how it was not so great, and he even conceded, yeah, there wasn't that much to announce. So that's interesting, because I remember hearing him taking the stage and going, oh, we got so much to get to, there's so much to do, there's so much to announce, and then nothing. So here's the interesting thing. Disney, I think, and this was driven home by the Peltz Restore the Magic thing as well. It's like, why are you robbing Peter to pay Paul? Peter's got a job. He's earning. Paul's a deadbeat. He's got to get a job too. The capital allocation for the company has been poor. Let's just be honest here, right? So we've got $30 billion going in for the last 2 years, all towards the studio segment, a lot of that towards DTC. 2 years, $30 billion. We've had the Fox acquisition, $70 billion, all pretty much dedicated to just ramping up their DTC division and providing content for the studio itself. We've had significant investment on this end, and meanwhile, the parks really haven't gotten that much back. From what I understand, their annual capital investment when it comes to the parks has been like $6 billion, but that's a lot, just maintenance and keeping things up. That's not necessarily new attractions and so forth. So can we maybe take, I don't know, I'm not asking for much, maybe $5 billion from DTC and put it in the parks? That way we have $11 billion. We got a little bit more money to play with. That way we can, hey, maybe we can get all the Pirates of the Caribbean figures working on the turntables, which from what I understand, they have actually, they're back working again, which is nice. But how long was that an issue? Could we get more money to maybe do that project maybe a little bit faster, right? Can we get some money back in the parks to actually keep these things from becoming these kind of maintenance nightmare headaches that they tend to find themselves being if you don't maintain them on a regular basis? These are all things that we can improve here, and we're seeing a little bit of that. Hopefully that continues, but people also have to understand that they have limited capital as well. If people are thinking, oh, are we going to get a big announcement to rival Epic Universe? No, I don't think that's going to happen necessarily, but it is at least encouraging to hear. Now, I don't know how truthful it is because Josh, I don't know, don't trust him, but it's encouraging at least to hear that there is at least a little bit of a commitment towards spending at the parks level. And I think some of that is quite frankly due to maybe Nelson Peltz's kind of case that it's like, hey, your capital allocation is not good. So that, I'm hopeful of.
Yeah. I have high hopes, but I'm not like counting my chickens before they hatch, so to speak, especially the way the company has been kind of on like this rocky roller coaster type thing. But I mean, as I said, I still have high hopes. Now, they mentioned in the chat that the World Cup is in 2026.
Yes,
right?
LA.
So the World Cup is in 2026, but they're still having the Olympics in 2028. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So you're getting two high-profile events in the LA area. It would make sense that these parks, specifically around those two events, would kind of up their offerings, if only just to provide a little bit more capacity for when people actually come here. From what I understand, Universal is prepping for both, but with the culmination of it being for the Olympics. There will be things that World Cup travelers can actually see themselves that are going to be new for 2026, but 2028, I mean, that's kind of the goal here, and just kind of ramp up from there. It's going to be interesting to see if Disney does something similar. Now, like you said, George, Robert Niles from Theme Park Insider did ask specifically on Disneyland Forward, and I agree. He had some comments insinuating that, yeah, it's very much still on the table. We're optimistic about what's going on. We'll have announcements on that sometime soon after those get approved. So I don't know. Do we get at least another parking structure? Do we get maybe an expansion of the Downtown Disney plans? Do we get an expansion of maybe DCA? I don't know, but we do have to keep that in mind that people are going to be coming from all over the world to the LA area.
Yeah, I think honestly, if they want to beckon that call, especially if they want to kind of, I don't want to say rival Universal in that sense, if, Universal does have these plans when they make that announcement. But I think an expansion of DCA is the way to go, because that way you're expanding the land to actually have more people in it. And I think, honestly, DCA really needs that expansion to have more people in there and have a much bigger day. When people are visiting Disneyland.
when the ticket price for Disneyland from tier 0 to tier 6 or whatever, that's one thing. Spending all that money for DCA only, that's a big, that's still a big commitment. Even if you have a park hopper or a multi-day, that can be a little bit of a commitment if you don't have that park hopping option. So they would love to round out the number of experiences that are available at DCA. It's just there's a couple of things holding them back. Obviously, Eastern Gateway was part of that, right? That could expand the Hollywoodland area up to the north. And then Disneyland Forward, well, they're waiting approval on that. That could possibly expand that stuff out to the Paradise Pier area, which, by the way, or it's Paradise Pier Resort area, which, by the way, I think that's why they're going modest on that Pixar overlay for that hotel, so that they can they haven't necessarily invested much that they can't tear down later. So
and OG, I'm sorry, I was just gonna say real quick, OG had mentioned earlier, a lot of people were griping about Iger not visiting the park. So now that the fact he is, I say I welcome it. I welcome more of Iger and DeMauro to visit the parks, as long as there's an outcome at the end of it, not just for them to visit the parks and say, "Oh, we visited," take some snapshots and don't do nothing about it, So
absolutely. And a couple things. Slimer with $5. Thank you so much. I see you in the chat often here, so thank you so much for joining us here tonight. The possibility of Walt Disney World Tomorrowland mirroring Shanghai's as part of Disney's ongoing updates is intriguing to me, and one I'd be excited for. It's interesting you said that, Slimer, because Dusty was actually asked this on a live stream, and what he was intimating was, well, maybe you have some completed projects, right? Stuff that's like been developed or has been worked out to a degree by which you could kind of restart, and you wouldn't have to necessarily pay those development costs, right? They've already been designed. They're already good. Can we maybe get some of those projects back on the slate? Can we get a Mary Poppins back on the slate? Can we get a, the Avengers e-ticket, obviously, on the slate and going, right? Can we don't have to come up with new ideas. We've got ideas in the can, ready to go. Just pull the trigger and away you go. So that was also an interesting thing, too. I do think Iger will commit maybe a little bit to more capital investment towards these areas. It's just, does he undercut big projects now and saddle the next CEO with them later, right? Or does he just leave that up to the next CEO to come in? That's going to be an interesting thing. But refurbishments, maybe small updates, maybe some rides here or there. I don't see that being out of the question here. SoCal Imagine Channel says, do you think Disneyland Forward will have to wait for a better Anaheim City Council board? I wanted to go ahead and address this real fast. Yeah. From what I understand, there was an election that took place. Some people who were maybe not Disney friendly were voted out. And so I think they have the city council where they want it to be. The big question is the mayor. The mayor, from what we understand now, is not necessarily a Disney fan.
He doesn't own a pair of moss ears, let's say that.
She, I think.
She. Yeah, she.
It's okay. Don't worry, George. It's all good. But from what I understand, yeah, she's very... let's say,
shows how I follow California politics.
Yeah, California politics, exactly. How do you want to put this? She's not necessarily corporate driven, right? Which is fine, but in terms of what could hold up Disneyland Forward, now you have to add the mayor into that equation. So I was
and that would be really foolish, though, when you've got the World Cup and Olympics coming. That'd be basically crapping all over your constituents just to get back at a corporation, and that is just not a good idea.
But in a way, look at even the way, and I understand there's two sides to everything, but even just like with Reedy Creek at Walt Disney World, it's like you got these corporations bashing with these politicians and city council and what have you, and it's like it just seems like Disney is in the forefront of it all.
Yeah.
For many different reasons, but it was just as an example,
Well, you could also spin that, and I could see DeSantis spinning that as an, oh, wait, no. We're making an investment that comes in to Florida on the same playing field as Disney. Isn't that great? We're not having Disney run their show here and run people off potentially, right? So there's a little politicking on all sides there. I do agree with you. It would be bad for, I think, her constituents if she did not approve of those plans or stood in the way of those. But
at least some of it. You don't have to basically, okay, Disney, run roughshod over whatever you want to do. But there needs to be some understanding that, we're going to be missing out on a lot of jobs and a lot of money coming in if we don't greenlight at least some of this stuff with Disney.
Yeah. And I say greenlight the expansion of DCA. That's I'd be happy with that. I'd be overjoyed to see an expansion of DCA because that park from conception is like a porta potty. It's like it just catched crap all day long. That's all it did, and it needs some more love. It needs some more TLC.
Yeah. Okay. So
get whoever did Buena Vista Street to do anything else, because I swear that is I think it's my favorite part of DCA now.
Well,
I walk in there and I'm like, it is the perfect complement to Main Street. It just sets the mood so wonderfully that I'm like, oh my God, they nailed it with this one.
Yeah, I agree.
That's interesting you say that, because the head of that, the head of the DCA 2.0.
Don't say Bayou Mist. Don't say Bayou Mist.
Well, no, I was going to say that, but the head of that project is now leaving for another design firm. I can't remember the name. Why can't this name come to me? But you know who I'm talking about. They're no longer there, and that's kind of the worry is like who's there.
All these strong people that spearheaded WDI, that were the creatives,
that retired.
They're retired again. And they're just dropping off like flies, and it's unfortunate. It's the truth. It's actual. Everything is satisfactual. And speaking of which,
yes.
Mr. Vaskai has a because you wanted to throw this in there as well, sir.
Yeah, sure.
About the attraction that shall not be named, but we're going to name it on here anyway for Splash Mountain, because I believe it was, I don't even know what day it is today. It was, I can't even remember the last day it's actually open. I think it's
22nd.
I think it's the 22nd. Yeah. So there's only a few more days left for Splash Mountain at Walt Disney World. So if you want to ride it, if you're in the area, you know.
Right. So this is kind of concerning here. A lot of people have gone to ride this.
But yes, so this goes into the story. So if you wanted to ride it, this is what Mr. Vaskai wanted to talk about. Are you really getting in that last ride?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So a lot of people have wanted to ride Splash Mountain, obviously, for their last ride. And, well, now for like a couple days now, maybe leading up to the last week it's actually closing here, it's been kind of hard to ride this. It hasn't been opening with the park. It's had limited hours of operation. Casual, did it open today? Do you know?
I believe it was open today, but I think it was just last night. Friend of the channel, the Rogue Attraction, was there for the Deluxe Resort Guest Extra Magic Hours.
Okay. Oh, and it's just open for that.
And when he went, they did not have Splash Mountain open.
Oh.
See, this is my gripe with Disney, that if you're going to have a closing date and an ending date of an attraction, especially something as beloved as this, I don't care what your personal feelings are on the attraction here, folks. This is a very popular attraction. When you have a 90-minute wait for an attraction, it's beloved. I'm sorry, it is what it is. That Disney should not spearhead to say, okay, we're going to close this a couple days early and just kind of wean it off. That's not what was mentioned to us. If that was mentioned to us in the very beginning, then we would understand it. But I think this is kind of and forgive my tort here. I think it's a crappy way to kind of end an attraction.
It is. It is. Here's the thing. Okay, so, well, there's two ways this goes here, right? So, if you don't have an attraction, ending and people can't actually get access to it, they hate you forever. Like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, I believe it was taken offline with the expectation that it was coming back and never reopened again, and now it's gone for good, right? So that was not didn't leave the greatest taste in people's mouths. However, you close an attraction like, let's say, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and now you have this huge campaign, you got shirts, you got people protesting, and then there's a fear that people protest inside the park, which was a real fear at that time. They actually had, I guess, security in every single room throughout that attraction, just to ensure that people don't actually get out and chain themselves to something. And now we have an incident on our hands. So we've seen, let's say, an increased enthusiasm for Splash Mountain amongst various folks on this Twitter and so forth. We saw the sign actually get stolen, I think, from the Japanese version of the attraction. They were able to retrieve it, hang it up, get it back there, but it speaks to the fervor that there is for this stuff. And I think Disney's like, hey, let's just avoid it. Let's not, get into the muck and the mire here or make this thing an incident. Let's just kind of, maybe, oh yeah, we had some operational issues. Couldn't open it. Sorry, nothing we can do. That kind of thing, rather than, maybe have a demonstration or something like that actually take place at their parks. It's a really kind of interesting back and forth here. But
before we move, yes. Sorry, go. No, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I didn't miss you, Mr. McBeeby.
Yes,
do apologize. We didn't hit it up with a $5 super chat. Does the possible sale of the Angels and possible relocation to Long Beach mean anything to Disney? Would they jump on the chance to buy the land? Interesting question. Casual George, who wants to jump into this?
Casual, you could go first.
I don't know. It's a little bit far from the main parks, so I don't know if what they would do with it, especially with the renovation that's happening right across the way at the pond. They would be competing with that entertainment district right there. So I don't know if it would necessarily be a good fit for Disney, but again, I don't know what they would have up their sleeve for it. So it just seems like it's a little too remote.
No, I don't know too much as far as like outside of Disneyland, as far as like too much like of location wise with Anaheim and California. Does anyone know the distance between the Angel Stadium to the Disneyland Resort as opposed to what Epic Universe is going to be to Universal Orlando? Because I wonder
I don't.
If I wonder if that is the case, that it may not be, if it's not too far along, it may not be too far-fetched. Because I know that was a lot of in the talks in the Diz Twitter community, that is the Angel Stadium location going to be the next prime real estate for Disney to invest in, to kind of build on. But I kind of like how they had this way with Disneyland Forward, how they, because there was even talks that, is Disney going to buy up help me, Casual, I'm forgetting the name of it, across the street from Disneyland,
Garden Walk.
Garden Walk. Yeah. That there were talks that there's possibility they could buy up that, so I guess it can kind of go either way. I think if it fits in well with the location between Disneyland to the Angel Stadium, but if there's too much of a commute there, I don't know if Disney would bother.
To answer your question, George, I believe, according to this here, the distance between University of Florida and the Orange County Convention Center, which I believe is right across from Epic Universe, right? That's kind of a goalpost here. It's about 4 miles, and the distance between Disneyland Resort and the Angel Stadium is about 3.9 miles, or a 9-minute drive. So they're relatively kind of close in that. But
I think either way, I think Disney won't do something that ambitious unless they get the Eastern Gateway approved. That's an essential. I feel like if they're going to do something outside of the domain of what they could already expand into, that Eastern Gateway has to be put forward.
It's an interesting proposition. I don't know if something like that is contingent on Eastern Gateway in the same way that other things.
If it would have been the other way around, so
well, okay, so third park in kind of the Disneyland Resort complex, right, and on the old Strawberry Fields, now Toy Story lot, right, then you need parking at that area, right? Whereas if you invest into the Angels Stadium area, you could have parking over there, right? So
that's true.
So that's kind of the idea there. From what I understand, though, didn't the mayor sell that land already? I'm guessing it was denied that sale, and now
I was going to say, I believe all of that was halted once.
All that was halted. Okay, so that's why this is coming up. Okay,
now,
I see.
Would Disney be able to move a lot of backstage over to that area, and then be able to expand the parks into what is currently backstage because they're moving something?
Oh, like the offices and stuff for
Right.
Oh, that's interesting.
Do you necessarily need Team Disney Anaheim on site?
Right. You put that all over there, and then you can actually even move possibly, some cast member parking over that way as well. And then you've got the Strawberry Fields that you can work with again.
I wonder what it's zoned for.
Right.
Because that might be a zoning issue as well. But that's an interesting idea. I like where your head's at, Casual. That's pretty good. I mean, I would think if the Angel Stadium site is available, I would think that they'd be kind of looking at it a little bit, just kind of kicking the tires and seeing what might be appropriate for the area. Land is very hard to come by in Anaheim.
Right.
It just is. Long Beach, I think, is a little bit too far for a park, which is why they were never super attached to the idea of moving over there. But Anaheim would be ideal. Apparently, there are similar distances between parks and resorts, like you said, George, between the Epic Universe project and Universal Studios Orlando and the Disneyland Resort and the Angel Stadium. So it's like, well, if that works over here, can this work over here? It's a very interesting discussion. I would think that they are looking to that site with maybe great interest, as the meme goes. Also, too, I wanted to clarify something as well. OG, you can go ahead and share my screen right here. Universal's Epic Universe to open in 2025, costing $1 billion. So OG55 was correct, $1 billion. Yeah, I mean, if that's just the cost of the park, that's a little on the skimpy side, especially now.
Well, I was going to say, I hope they bought everything already and they just need to put it together.
Maybe. That's tough. Now, does this include actual land? Does it include actual resorts? I mean, we'll see. I'll have to go deeper into this. Also, too, a lot of this is going to be Super Nintendo World, which has already been designed, already been constructed elsewhere.
But that's an issue for me because kind of tying this with Universal Hollywood, and Wizards probably going to grill me for this, but I'm sorry, it's not as aesthetically pleasing as certain things that seem semi-complete, and I just hope that they don't move that transitioning into Epic Universe when it comes to Super Nintendo World. Like when we walk into the land, I would expect that it would be fully completed. That's my issue.
Well, I've been seeing things that they are addressing things as we go. So I think some people have said that they did possibly open a little bit too early. That there were things that they were still working on, still finishing up, and people are showing that things are getting painted and adjusted as the days go on. So hopefully a lot of those things are addressed.
Yeah. And look, we've heard from Mice Chat and so forth that there are people within the creative ranks at Universal Creative kind of like not happy with the development of Epic Universe, and it's like, well, is it because things are being cut back? Is it the Super Nintendo World Universal Hollywood effect where you come in with one plan and then world events happen and now you have to maybe necessarily compromise or get a third party contractor to put some stuff together? You open earlier than you expected, all these kind of things that just kind of I don't know, signify a inferior product or inferior vision of what maybe was intended. I'm not sure, but $1 billion, that's a little, I'm telling you guys, that's a little light.
Yeah.
That should be around.
Yeah, I would almost
35.
say, yeah, I was going to say the billion. It's like, okay, maybe that's just the little theme park sections, doesn't count the hotel and other
Yeah.
infrastructure type of things. But even still, $1 billion just for the theme park sections is,
I mean,
I would still say that's a little light.
that's like DCA and the budget it got back in 1999 or whatever, when that project was approved, right? 2001, that's about how much they spent. If you're looking at the cost of inflation and cost of materials and so forth, I mean, that's a little short, I think. Now, maybe the intention is, hey, provide a couple of lands initially and build this thing out. They are only building on a very small portion of
Right.
the total site, right? With the idea that they not only expand Epic Universe itself, but maybe more parks in general, which is very exciting. And so, and they have built kind of built-in expansion paths as part of that theme park. And maybe it's like, okay, we have a day one product, and then we just go forward from there. Maybe. That is interesting, though. It's a good thing that you a good thing you brought up there, OG, for sure. I think we have enough time here to continue here.
I just
George?
wanted to finish off casual.
Please.
I'm not sure. Did you get your input in as far as like with Splash Mountain, as far as like the closing without closing, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, the whole way this thing is just charged on both sides with people, and I don't know if there was a good way to do it without, irritating at least somebody. I think possibly just what Vash was saying, it made you think, okay, have an official closing date, but then, with the possible opportunity, for 2 weeks where, we may have some openings and, whatever, and kind of
But would
wean
Disney
people off.
necessarily do this with another attraction, though? Because they didn't do it for the Great Movie Ride. They didn't do it for even
Ellen's
Toontown.
Energy
Ellen's
Adventure.
Energy Adventure. It's like, because it's Splash Mountain and there's so much tied to this, for me, that's not a coincidence.
Well, we've seen enthusiastic people, let's say, bring in all kinds of stuff to the parks, right, to make a statement. We've heard about instances of that happening, stories of that happening. Do you necessarily want to have another incident like that popping up again? Interesting case, just kind of don't give everybody their last ride as you may have advertised, and just quietly close it early. It's something. You are right, George, in that this is a unique situation, a unique attraction. Wouldn't necessarily happen with others. I don't think so. If I'm just speaking openly and
Well,
honestly.
I mean, think about it. What are you guys expecting over the weekend for Splash? I mean, it's anything goes, really. It's really hard to say what might happen, and it could be the smartest thing to just say technical difficulties. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. Do you want to have DeSantis land flags, or do you want to just
Exactly.
close it up and prevent that from happening at all? Theme Park Wizard with another $10 super chat. Awesome. He says this: the earnings call revealed that Epic Universe's construction in 2022 would cost at least $1 billion. Oh, that's interesting. Here's a quote from Boardwalk Times saying construction this year cost $1 billion. Okay, so that's the capital expenditure for that year for Epic Universe. Now that's different.
Okay,
that's a big difference right there, Wizard. I do appreciate that clarification right there. We're finding out more as time goes on. I'm glad. Glad this is taking place like this, but hey, that's the great thing about the chat. You can go ahead and correct us. That is completely fine right there. But that's definitely a game changer right there, and puts me maybe a little bit more at ease. I don't know if that meant total or just this year. Yeah, it sounds like capital expenditures for that year. So that's
that
good.
would make sense.
That would make a lot more sense.
Yeah.
California Dreamin'. Disney is lucky that the ride system for Splash is so fun. With the drops, we at least know the ride will still have the thrills. Yeah, but the problem with that, the height problem, right? The height requirements. So those little, princes and princesses that maybe want to see Tiana can't. So that's,
or at least want to
that thing,
experience the
too.
mist. You know.
Yeah, the
And,
mist.
and here's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, when Tiana opens, it's going to have 90-minute waits.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Oh, absolutely.
And the same people that, are sitting here saying, don't close Splash. Look at the 90-minute waits. It's going to go to the other side, and they're going to say, look how popular Tiana is, 90-minute waits. So
Correct.
We need to just everybody take a breath, calm down.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
No.
And you can ride it grudgingly when it opens if you want.
California Dreamin' said, what do you guys think of the French market being rethemed to Tiana and Critter Country staying as is? I felt like the exit to Tiana going into Critter Country is strange. I actually thought it was going to be Hungry Bear, to be honest with you. I thought Hungry Bear was going to be kind of on that chopping block, so to speak, to retheme it to something of Princess and the Frog. I don't know.
If so, that would reveal just how knee-jerk reaction it was to do this whole thing, because they just redid that whole area for the entrance along the rivers to Galaxy's Edge. And had they known that something like this was, possibly coming, would they have gone through all of that to restructure all of Hungry Bear's, the platforms and everything? I mean, I know they needed the entrance, but I don't know.
OG, you want to share my screen here? We can show people what we're talking about with Tiana's Palace. Yes, so they just recently announced, I forgot about this.
I did too. So much going on.
It's a light overlay. Let's be honest here. Starting in February, they will start a conversion for the nearby French Market restaurant across from Haunted Mansion and just beside Cafe Orleans along the river's edge there. That they'll be converting that restaurant into Tiana's Palace with a very light overlay. This will not be a character dining restaurant. This won't be a sit-down restaurant. It'll be basically the service that you could experience here before, just with an updated menu. It looks like they're going to go with yellow and green for the tarps now, and all that. Interesting too. I mean, here's my thing. Okay, remember what I told you guys about limited capital expenditures? Okay, this is kind of that. I know Josh is saying, "Oh, we're spending so much money," and it's like, yeah. I mean, yes, of the stuff that you've already announced, but what have you done for me lately? And so these are the kind of projects that we can see here without a big driving mandate from management, let's say. So this is what we're getting right here. You guys were talking about Hungry Bear and so forth, right? Why didn't they go there? I get it. I mean, I could imagine the possibilities with the Hungry Bear restaurant as well. Problem is that would take considerably more money. And they just didn't want to spend it, quite frankly. So now it's being shoehorned here. Honestly, it's not the worst thing in the world. However, it's like this was already a very popular location. This has already had, it's hard to find a table there sometimes. I remember OG relaying me a story in which he goes in there, gets the food, and now, the food is cold by the time you actually do get a table, looking around for like 30 minutes or so. Do we necessarily need to have an overlay on top of that to make it even more popular? I'm not sure you do, but this is the place that already serves beignets, right? This is a place that already has New Orleans cuisine. You put up the sign there, you put up some smokestacks, change out a couple things, and boom, Tiana. Come on, guys. And now you can.
But yeah, watch how much popular it's going to be just by doing those few changes.
And that's why Disney does it, because they don't need to do anything more. And it's really, it is really unfortunate, unfortunately.
But California Dreamin' actually made a point. But how come Disney did not think that when you exit Splash, it lands you right into Pooh Corner? Because, this kind of ties in with this, because everything is kind of going into New Orleans, Princess and the Frog, but you have Winnie the Pooh. Yeah. That's going to be a sore thumb out of this whole thing. So does that? Well, do we
think about what Disney World's going to get? Think about the problem at Walt Disney World.
Yeah,
they don't care. They're going in and they're going to change this. And transitions be damned. Now, hopefully they do kind of think about those things. California Dreamin'. I hope they do. I hope they do kind of like, that is
because they're even saying they feel that Disney's starting to forget about the importance of transitioning between themes and areas.
the entrance to Splash Mountain at Disneyland already takes place sort of near New Orleans now, right? Or sort of near Haunted Mansion and so forth. So it's like, okay, well, it's already kind of part of this land. We just have it walk in, and I think Dusty was even suggesting that, I think they're just going to update the Critter Country signage to maybe include Bayou critters and Winnie the Pooh critters, and and that's that, and that's kind of where they're going here, and it's really unfortunate. That's what kind of makes us worried about the attraction itself, right? How much are they going to actually spend on what people are actually coming down here for? I don't know, but you see Tiana's Palace, you see Eudora's Chic Boutique, you see the Splash Mountain concept artwork and the models and so forth, or I should say Tiana's Bayou Adventure. It doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. So if people are thinking that they're going to go big, go home, I've not seen evidence that they are.
Yeah. I guess time will tell.
Well, but George, if things do go wrong, maybe they can fix them, or maybe they can change their operations, which leads us to our next story about the Galactic Star Cruiser.
Yes, we saved the best for last here, folks. One of my personal all-time favorite locations, all of Walt Disney World. Yeah, who are we kidding?
No, not at all. Not at all.
That Disney starts the beginning process of canceling some of the Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser voyages for this. What actually surprised me, the timing for this upcoming summer, when that's when people take their family vacations. And just recently, several actors that were part of the Galactic Star Cruiser, they essentially walked out. They left, and that's very telling. That because these actors were paid much. They're a much higher tier actors than, you would just get, the basic characters you would see walking around in the parks, so I think,
oh yes.
And these were high paid actors. So it's like,
and I wanted to highlight that as well. This is part of the story, folks, don't worry. But I wanted to go ahead and highlight that part of it, because that's the other thing that's happening here. This comes to us from very dear friend of the channel, Drunk 3PO. Awesome guy for sure. Love his content, but he actually brought this to light. I was kind of shocked at how this is actually going here. We'll play a little bit of this video, and specifically these kind of what is it? These cast member kind of walkaways or whatever. That these videos are really, really weird. So we'll go ahead and play
feel like
them
reality show confessionals.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Let's see
what's going on, and then you tell me, like, something is happening here. Trust me. There are several cast members from the Galactic Star Cruiser who has been there from the very beginning, who actually helped create some of the characters that people are seeing over there. And just listen to the verbiage that they use, because it seems like they're all reading from the same cue card.
I am leaving the Galactic Star Cruiser. Hey friends, for those of you that don't know, I play a couple different roles at Disney's Galactic Star Cruiser immersive experience. I was even lucky enough to help create and develop the role of Sammy the Mechanic. For a myriad of reasons, I have decided to leave the Galactic Star Cruiser, but I wanted to take a moment just to talk about the good and the bad. This by far has been the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire career, both physically and mentally. It is truly a 48-hour show, both on stage and off stage. Even when we go to sleep at night, we are thinking and remembering the experiences of the day before so we can customize your second day on board. That's what we were trained to do. No one is giving us your names through little earpieces. That is all the actors doing. But we carry that burden knowing that you and your family paid $6,000 to stay here for 2 days. So we're going to try and give you the best Star Wars experience that we...
Now, I want to point out that when we started saying that it cost $6,000 to stay at the Star Cruiser, a lot of people were saying that's BS. It's not how it works out. But the cast members are even saying it. All right? The cast members are even saying it. Now... if you go on and...
yeah, and then there's another video that he showcases as well, which says kind of the same thing here. So we'll play a little bit of that.
I helped create and develop the role of Sandro Alamander, the singer-songwriter who falls in love on his first journey aboard the Halcyon. He's a big Gaia fan, and he makes a lot of new friends along the way. During my time, I've written hundreds of improvised songs, made incredible friends, laughed real laughter, and shared real tears with every single person there. I've also received really cool fan art, just like this one here. This is definitely one of the most difficult projects I've ever been a part of, but also one of the most rewarding and fulfilling jobs that I've ever had. Being that something like this has never been done before in the history of the world, where performers are in an immersive experience with the guests at all times of day, carrying out a story, remembering names and songs over the course of 2 days to make one big beautiful show, it definitely takes its toll.
So, yeah, a big thanks to Shay from Drunk 3PO. Awesome guy, for sure. Yeah. Definitely subscribe to him. So in light of that, which seems like they're reading from a script almost, now you have Disney calling up people who have actually booked certain days in the summer and telling them, hey, if you go with a busier cruise, you can get up to like a 50% discount. We are seeing some very weird operations as part of the Star Cruiser right now. Guys, why is this happening?
Me personally, this project I felt was unfortunately doomed from the start. From even to concept. I'm thinking about this in my head while they were still doing construction. How in the world are they doing this? And then on top of it, when they dropped the price tag, and I thought, there is no way that someone is going to fork out an arm and a leg just to have a normal, typical family vacation package at Walt Disney World, and then add on an additional $6,000 to $9,000 just for a 2-night Star Wars experience. When, all actuality, I'm sorry, I know that, and nothing against the actors. The actors are doing what they're supposed to be doing, but just the overall experience, it's not that great. I'm sorry, for me, it really isn't. I've watched influencers on YouTube. I've watched people post videos and what have you. It's just not, I don't think anything in a theme park setting is worth $6,000. Aside from you actually being on an actual film set, it's not worth it. So, and now Disney is maneuvering different things. Me personally, and I mentioned this to Vash on the phone earlier, that, and I've said it once, I said it twice, and I'm going to say it again, that to have that amount of land be adjacent to Hollywood Studios, the smallest park at Walt Disney World, was a missed opportunity that they could have expanded that park, or at least expand Galaxy's Edge into something more appeasing than this Star Cruiser. But that's my take on it.
Casual?
Yeah, I, from the get-go, I knew it was just going to go down in flames. Honestly, they call it the Halcyon. It should have been called the Albatross, because that's basically what it's going to be now the whole time. I don't understand. I mean, obviously, they had to have done market research, I'm assuming. But how do you go so big without testing the waters first? That is where I don't understand it. It's like you could have done a really cool dinner theater with Jedi and Sith or whatever and charge a few $100 to see, okay, what's the market like for role play in the Star Wars universe? And I
or have maybe an extra ticketed event at Batuu,
right,
which
so,
incorporate a lot of that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Late night or something like that. Yeah. And I don't understand why they wouldn't do something like that first to see what the reception is and how long, what kind of longevity does it have? What kind of, does it bring people back, or is it a one and done kind of thing?
Because they cut a lot of funding off of other projects just to finance this thing. And it's of why Disney didn't think of this while in the process, that they expected that this was supposed to be filled up every single day of every single month of every single year, is beyond me.
Yeah, well, at those price point, there was just no way that's going to happen.
Yeah,
I do agree. Casual. I mean, it's and they did kind of go a little, let's say, conservative rather than ambitious. With the 100 rooms, right? It's like, oh, we can fill up 100 rooms, and we can have this higher price point. We can have this interactivity and so forth. We can have a really kind of heightened experience here. And this was Chapek's baby. I mean, that's why some projects got the shaft, let's say, and this one went forward, is because he wanted this not only here at Walt Disney World, but this concept brought out to every single Disney theme park around the world, or at least theme park resort. And to have the first foray into this not do as successful as maybe they anticipated, this is definitely concerning, because, like you said, George, took away from other projects, right? This was something that was very, very ambitious for the company. And I said, look, listen, at this price point with this product or whatever, give it about a year. Well, it opened March 1st of 2022. We're about at that time here. We're really the wheels are kind of falling off here. OG55 should have been priced like an expensive hotel, not a cruise. Yeah, here's the thing.
And I would spend that money on a Disney cruise. If I had to pick and choose to spend that money, I'd take a Disney cruise over the Star Cruiser.
There's a saying in retail. It is there are no bad products, just bad price points. This product could have worked if it was severely cheaper than it was, right? But you're asking premium prices for an experience which isn't there. It's just not. The aesthetic quality isn't there. The timeline for what people want to experience when they go to a Star Wars experience just isn't there, right? I mean, even Mandalorian would have been a better timeline in which this could take part in, rather than the kind of sequel trilogy, which I think a lot of people have had their fill. Let's say. Go ahead, George.
And California Dreamin' gifts us with $2. Do we know if it has been profitable for them? Me personally, I don't think it would be that too much profitable if they're canceling cruises for people. I mean, maybe they made enough to maybe kind of break even, and now because moving forward it's going to be more cost effective to them. But I mean, for them to cancel, especially as I mentioned in the summertime, that's an odd time to be canceling.
They canceled July 4th, July 12th, July 17th, August 1st, August 7th, August 15th, August 27th. I mean, these are big dates right here. This is when this should be packed, should be going, should be rare, should be all about it. And now, maybe it's not. And that is particularly concerning as far as profitability goes. Yes, I mean, you think $6,000, they got to be swimming in the money, but there was a lot of labor, there was a lot of actors, there was a lot of cast members that were part of this thing, a lot.
Yeah, I'm curious how many rooms it takes to break even for the day.
Right.
Never mind make your money back from construction and all of that, because that's where you really got to look at it. They're not looking at, okay, well, we made, X number of dollars for this day. No, it's like we've got all this other stuff that we already dumped into it that we got to pay back.
Exactly. And casual. That's why they're moving guests from lower days to higher ones, because they were below that threshold for sure. George, BJ Vincent here.
Yeah, absolutely. BJ Vincent. Gotta tell you, fellas, you're not on team Christine Waistlines McCarthy, because you guys want me to fill up on some Carl's Jr. I'm telling that much. That he gives us with $5 and says, people just wanted a regular Disney hotel with a Star Wars theme, and people would have just gone crazy. I would have to.
Jabba's Palace,
Jabba's Palace. I mean, I agree. I think if it was just a typical themed Star Wars hotel with just cool rooms and an awesome type of lobby, I think when they added this kind of and this was detrimental, I think, to Galaxy's Edge, was when you add too much play interaction where you're within the story, so to speak. A lot of people don't want to go on vacation and want to be in a role. They want to be immersed where the roles are around them. They're not necessarily the role. And I think that was a big part where Galaxy's Edge went wrong, and definitely where the Star Cruiser went wrong.
Well, and even the people who do want to be interactive don't necessarily want to pay that much for interactivity. So it's kind of like a demographic thing, problem there.
Can you imagine just walking in through Jabba's Palace? Like just walking through it, nothing else, just walk through it.
Do they still have the tree houses out at, what is it, Fort Wilderness out
They do.
there?
Yeah.
They do.
Why isn't that an Ewok village?
These are all good questions. These are all very good questions. I don't know. It should be. They should be, right? Yeah, Star Wars Hotel, Ewok Village, that would have been sweet. Yeah, a traditional Star Wars hotel I think would have been just fine. I do think there is like a role for this kind of hotel interactive concept. It's just the wrong price point and wrong theme, wrong execution. I mean, even if they had really poured the money like they were expecting to pour into this thing, for when for that would feature the sequel trilogy and all that, maybe it would have even been better. But it's just like at that price point for that product, it's just not there. I can see it working very well for Universal, for like Wizarding World, for example. Could you imagine, becoming a wizard staying at Hogwarts? That would be dope, right? This stuff could work. Also, too, I heard of a concept. It was between the Star Cruiser and something else. Oh man, I wish I could tell you guys because it is so good.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, exactly. Take an attraction that everybody loves.
I know what you're talking
Stay a
about.
night in that. You know what I'm talking about, George.
Yes,
I cannot reveal it,
Yes,
but I can tell you right
please.
now, this was probably the worst iteration of that idea that we got.
Yeah.
Now, hopefully, they take this to heart and say, hey, let's redo this thing. Let's make it sequel trilogy, or let's make a various itineraries with various timelines and go from there.
Yeah, I would
It
say
can still
if
work,
they
but
wanted to keep Raylo, that's perfectly fine, but don't do it every single blasted time. And it's like the same storyline, and I mentioned this before. You get that same storyline on Rise. So it's like you leave the Star Cruiser to go into Galaxy's Edge with the same storyline where you get kidnapped by Kylo Ren, you board his ship, yada, yada, yada. He takes you prisoner. It's like, can we come up with some new material here?
yeah. Oh, Theme Park Wizard, Indie Hotel, Marty Snyder. They could have used some sightlines in those rooms.
Yeah.
Yep. Could have done that. Indie Hotel for sure. Jurassic World. Yeah. I mean, you can do this.
Me personally, I think honestly, because James Cameron has been killing it with Avatar too. I mean, if you were to create a Pandora experience where you kind of like become this hybrid into the world of Pandora, that would be awesome.
That was my guess, BJ.
I don't know. I just heard about it, and you're saying an attraction. People can theorize what that actually was.
Yes.
Slimer, I think I speak for mostly everyone when I say a Jedi themed WINF
Wing.
What?
Wing in the other.
Oh
the
yeah,
next one.
he just mistyped. Okay, a themed wing, a Sith themed wing, and a bounty hunter themed wing is what we want. Yeah, I mean that is very, very like a Jedi temple. But becoming a Jedi.
But that's what I'm
cool.
like not really understanding, because this is what people wanted. They're saying we're listening to the fans, and if you're going to tie in Star Wars fans on top of Disney fans, you're barking up the wrong tree. Because if you start pissing off diehard Star Wars fans, then you're going into another whole realm. Because I mean, you have like some dedicated Star Wars fans that they literally live for this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tower of Terror supposed to be like that. Would have been dope. OG55, we need more Palpatine in the parks. Yeah, exactly. Oh man, like a Sith light side, dark side temple. Oh,
as Slimer says, now you're talking, George. I'm assuming you're referring to my avatar. Entering Pandora, Slimer. Let me know if that's what you mean.
Yeah, I want more Emperor. Yeah, exactly. I know. I mean, Star Wars is a brand that has just been underutilized, underleveraged, right? It's just been like, there are great concepts there.
I don't think it's underleveraged. I think it's been misleveraged, if you will.
Yeah,
it's been mismanaged. It's just not. Here's my thing, especially when it comes to Galaxy's Edge. They were trying to copy Harry Potter and what Universal did there. Mm-hmm. That worked for them. Star Wars is completely different. It's a completely different mind. To me, it's bigger. It's got more diverse locales and people and everything that goes with it. I get really disappointed. And as much as I love Cars Land, part of me says, what happened to having areas where lots of different IPs and ideas and things can live and interact? You know, it's like you had New Orleans Square, but you've got Pirates and then you've got Haunted Mansion, very different things. And I know there's people that have created, you know, the fan stuff that connects them and all this,
and
all
what's
these
universe.
backstories. Yeah. But Galaxy's Edge, Star Wars Land should have been a wonderful place that you go that feels Star Wars, but behind any doorway you could have entered a new adventure. I get really frustrated with how they're going with these very dedicated IP driven lands.
Timeline limited too.
Yeah. And it's like, what happened to, you know, Fantasyland where there's Pinocchio and Dumbo and all these, and it all works.
So funny because Dusty made this point during his live stream too. He's like, I don't like this. Like, we're gonna go with a land. We're gonna take like 14 acres and we're gonna theme it to like this scene in the movie. And it's like, that's really limiting, guys.
Right.
I think people want a little bit of, you know, spice of life, some flavor. I'm glad that, I mean, someplace like Adventures Campus is kind of like a canvas by which you can add some more stories to that. But even that's kind of limiting, right? And it's like, can we get back to, hey, we have a themed area and we have a plethora of different IP that can kind of just slot in here. Definitely for like Disneyland, that's a good way of going because it's like, even if you do get like a Frozen Land, for example, well now, if you want to expand that, you have to kind of keep it within Frozen. You know, it kind of limits your expansion, limits the ideas that can come from that. Is it the best utilization of space? Maybe works in Universal Studios or maybe even Walt Disney World because they have unlimited land, but for Disneyland that's kind of it's a different thing, let's say. OG55, do you fellas think with Iger back that the multiversity ticket will get a budget and ambition boost? I'm thinking so.
Should be. It should,
Iger,
I would think.
Iger understands that Marvel needs a presence in theme parks, right? And if he can't do it in Florida, I think he's willing to do it in California. And I think people have been wanting a Marvel experience in the parks. I think he's not adverse to spending money and getting that right because, well, it makes his legacy look all the better, right? I bought Marvel, I gave you Marvel, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at this point, it'd be the next CEO footing the bill, really.
That's very true. That's very true. Marty Snyder, so funny they don't sell magic bands in Galaxy's Edge when 99% of where you could use them. I didn't even think about that.
Yep.
That's a good point. It's a good point right there. Yeah, I mean, and that's a point I'll give to Super Nintendo World. Just quickly, we'll wrap it up here. But that's a point I'll give to Super Nintendo World. The interactivity looks fun. Like, it looks good. And it's well integrated. And I guess there are experiences where you don't have to have the Magic Band. But if you do have the Magic Band, you got high scores, you have this. People are really kind of interacting amongst each other. Really good. Galaxy's Edge was supposed to have that on day one. They were supposed to have that interactivity. They were supposed to have that kind of real role-playing. So sad that it didn't actually get included. And the Bounty Hunter game, I'm sorry, that's just not worth $35. I don't think. Hopefully they can integrate that stuff later. Hopefully Universal is paving those roads like they have in a couple of instances, even though Josh G. Morrow likes to claim that they're the pioneers. Hopefully some people look at that and go, hey, we can do that, and we can do that in our premier resort destination like a Galaxy's Edge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I completely agree. Well, with that being said, I want to thank you both for joining me and Mr. Orange Grove 55 behind the scenes there, and everybody in the chat for, as Mr. Vasky calls, a robust discussion of a lot of hot topics today that we covered at both Disneyland and Walt Disney World. Everyone who joined in the chat, Theme Park Wizard, Slimer, BJ Vincent, California Dreamin', Marty Snyder, everybody, Jay Lynn, Crystal Ray, everyone that contributed to the chat, we greatly appreciate it. Without you guys, this wouldn't be going on right now. So we greatly appreciate it. And I want to thank this guy down below for joining us today, Mr. Theme Park Casual. Glad to have you back on the channel. And yep, there you go.
Oh no, thank you guys. It's always a blast. It's hard to believe that it was almost 2.5 hours we're coming in on, and it just goes by so fast when you're hanging out with good friends. But again, thank you guys so much for having me back. I look forward to seeing you guys hopefully very, very soon. And in the meantime, you can find me on YouTube at Theme Park Casual, or you can interact with me on Twitter and Instagram, where we have theme park thoughts, news, and discussion for the casual visitor from a former theme park commando.
That's
There
for
you go.
sure, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And of course, right next to there we go. Right next to me over here, my brother, my partner in crime, Mr. Vast Sky, Dr. Dre the DA, all that good stuff. Tell everyone where they can find you on social media, sir.
I'm the historian. I'm the lawyer.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm all these things and more, I suppose. Well, thank you so much, George, for hosting tonight's events. I do appreciate it, and thanks for having me on for sure. If you guys want to find me, you can go ahead and find me right here at Vash Sky. Just go ahead and type it in, as Christine Wastelands McCarthy would say, for all the
Robust
discussion right there. You can definitely do that. And if you guys want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel right now that you're watching at OG55, where we have all kinds of incredible shows like the one you're watching right now. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button, that share button. It absolutely helps us out for sure. But you can find us here where we have great shows like Orange Nerd, where we go behind the camera with our dear friend OG55. We go in front of the camera as well with Jay from Story Geeks, where we talk about the stories that impact our lives for sure. George with his amazing Citrus Corner. We talk about all things Walt Disney World. And my show there as well, Freshly Squeezed. Your source for juice, news, and info. Squeezed fresh right from the Grove. I think that's that just about wraps it up here, guys. Thank you so much for joining us in the chat. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and interacting with us. It was very, very cool. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. And kick this off for a nice good night. I'm George, the Disney Family Man. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23. You can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. You can check out the new podcast I'm part of, A Walk with Walt. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info. Y'all have a good night there, folks. Take care.